Fans, welcome to another edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and the man who is the guest of honor tonight, a man who is very well known to Great North Wrestling fans, along with wrestling fans around the world, one Wes Brisco. Wes, welcome to the show.
Oh man, it's so good to be on the show. It's so good to be back, and I can't wait to come back to Canada. Woo!
Yes, sir. And we're going to talk about that in some detail upcoming in terms of your booking on the big 15th anniversary Great North Wrestling event coming up less than a week away. It's been a lot of work and prep, but it's gratifying to say that. But on May the 6th in Ottawa, Ontario, we're going to be coming back big and starting the season off with a bang. And it wouldn't be a Great North Wrestling event without your inclusion on it. So we're very excited about that, along with your match against the young upstart Magnum McLaren, the man who is making a big name for himself in the business. And I know you have some familiarity with, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But what I wanted to do tonight to start off was get into a little bit of a deep dive in terms of your career and what brought you to the business. But before that, what was it like getting into growing up in a household of such wrestling royalty?
Well, it was tough. I mean, I grew up where amateur wrestling, boxing, football was everything that we lived by. So I played sports my whole entire life. So as a child, I grew up wrestling. I grew up boxing. I grew up karate, football, baseball, whatever you could imagine. Every sport that I even mentioned, my dad would say, "Oh, you like that? Well, I'll put you in it." So I was just constantly surrounded in sports because he wanted me to be a part of a team and feel that team pride and that, that self pride that you're part of a team. You can't let the team down. You got to work hard. You got to bust your ass, like that's the type of stuff that like how I grew up.
And being around the business from the time that you were an infant, a small child, et cetera, what experiences did you have as a child that made an impression on you in terms of being exposed to different stars, different workers, et cetera, philosophies that made you who you are in terms of the wrestler that you became?
Wolves, what up, Ian? What's going down? I grew up pretty fortunate where I got to, as a young child, whenever WWE would come to Tampa, I would be able to go there, and Vince would hire me as a little kid to bring all the guys coffees and sodas and waters and stuff from catering. So as a little kid, I've always been around pro wrestling. I've always been around the boys. And so that's why a lot of people ask me, how come you don't get starstruck, or how come you don't really, when you see celebrities, you don't really act? Because I'm like, because they want my autograph. I don't want theirs. I always grew up around some of the biggest names in the whole entire world. There's days that I remember Andre the Giant hold me up in his hand. And I'm like, holy moly. There's times that I heard Undertaker eat 11 cheeseburgers. Who eats 11 cheeseburgers? I guess the Undertaker. But you know what I mean? There's so many stories. And then at the end of the night, Vince would hand me a $50 bill or a $100 bill. So it was pretty crazy being a little kid. And then, of course, we'd always have the guys come over to the house. And, being a little kid, I was always around the superstars. I was always around those guys. So, I remember Hillbilly Jim kicking me out of my bed and stealing my bed. So it's and he's a big dude. What are you going to do against Hillbilly Jim? I mean, he's a big farm bred dude. So it's what are you going to do? There's not too much you can do, especially when you're a little kid. You're like, I guess I'm sleeping on the couch. You grab your blanket and the one pillow. You're like, no, I'm at least coming with a pillow.
So being exposed in the business and being an integral part of your upbringing, and you said that you were quite an athlete, played a number of sports, engaged in a number of activities. What was it always sort of a given that you would be a wrestler yourself, or what made you make that decision per se, or was there even a decision to make and it just happened, or how did that occur?
Well, right out of high school, I had a couple scholarships for amateur wrestling, and I had the opportunity to become a professional wakeboarder, extreme sports, and like do the X Games and all that stuff. So my dad was kind of like, I was kind of pushing a little bit away because I kind of want to set in my own path, my own trend, and set my own way. So I went off and did professional wakeboarding until I was like 24. And then I realized professional wrestling is my calling. And that's when I decided, you know what? I'm going to lace those boots back up. I'm going to step in that ring.
And I guess that sort of come to Jesus moment wasn't something that your family or those close to you did they ever question that, like, do you really want to take on it's
of course my dad questioned
it.
He said either you give it 110% or you don't do it at all. Are you serious about this? Is this what you want? Mm-hmm. So like, of course there was doubt and hesitation, but truly in my heart I knew where I belong. I belong in that ring, in that four squares.
So when you did make that decision, can you talk about your training for the fans a little bit and what the process?
Yeah, I was blessed that I was trained by Norman Smiley, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Dusty Rhodes, Steve Kern, some of the best, and it was a humbling experience. And that's something that every wrestler should learn how to get, is that you got to humble yourself. You have to show respect. You have to show that you're willing to bust your ass. You're willing to take anything. You're willing to go an hour, 30 minutes. You're willing to do whatever it takes to get in that ring. And I feel like with the youth these days, it's the things that they don't respect the guys that came before them, the people that has blazed that trail and made it where you're able to feed your family. And that's something that I've been blessed with, is that I always show respect and give back and always show love to the people that came before me, because those guys are the ones that put food on their tables and be able to make this pathway to where we're at now today.
And that's an interesting point that you brought up, especially in terms of some of the current product. Some of the veterans have said that, when you try and give advice, not to pick on AEW for any particular reason, but we seem to hear that, all the veterans that are backstage there, one of the criticisms of the current roster is, they're not listening to advice, or they want to do their own thing, et cetera, et cetera. Why do you think that phenomenon developed, or do you think it's as big a problem as, say, some in the internet wrestling community would have you believe, that respect is a big issue?
Well, it's just like, you look at it and you see where the company direction is going. You kind of look at it like, is it going the way that NWO went, where all their buddies have control and they take control and they don't show respect to the guys that are in power and the guys that are trying to help the product grow? You got to look at it that way, because I kind of see that here and there with AEW, that they kind of let their guys do whatever they want, and that's a bad thing. You got to have some control. You have to have some type of structure. I know people will hate me for saying that, but I don't care. Like, people have to have structure. You have to have some type of like guideline to go by, or everyone else just runs free. And if everyone else runs free, then you don't have control of your product, of your company, and you cannot promote it the way you want to promote it, because no one's going to listen to you. Especially if you just give them a slap on the wrist and say goodbye.
Well, I've experienced a little bit of that myself during the time that I've been promoting, and notwithstanding individuals like your opponent, Magnum, there has to be that. I believe that there has to be respect in the locker room, and there has to be a chain of command. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, you got to, like, unlike what Magnum did by just disgracing one of our posters, which is not something I recommend for any young wrestler. That's pretty disrespectful to disrespect the company, and especially Magnum. I mean, I know he's a young man, he's trying to make a name for himself, but can you do better? Like, man, like, don't pick on the poster, pick on me. Like, come on now. Like, we're just trying to promote. You don't have to disrespect what we're doing out here.
Well, and just the whole a number of statements that he's made in terms of using Wes Brisco as a stepping stone. Obviously, that's disrespectful in and of itself. And I know it's kind of like water off a duck's back for you, but it shows the difference perhaps in the mindset of the not every younger worker or whatnot, but between that and the old school way of doing things.
Yeah, and it's crazy because he has so much talent. He has so much talent in the palm of his hands that I don't think he realized that. He has so much talent that he can be so great. But is he willing to take that chance to listen? Is he willing to take that chance to be humble? Maybe the chance that he gets is Wes Brisco beating his ass to maybe make him a little bit humble. But Magnum's going to be a big star, believe it or not. No matter what his path is, he's going to be a big star. He's going to be someone to look out for, someone to watch, someone to keep your eyes on, because he's going to be a superstar.
Which is part of the it's sad that some have to learn the hard way, but so be it if that's the path that he chooses. Moving back to your career, when you became involved with developmental and FCW, how did that come about?
It was right after I got done doing a big pro wakeboarding tour, and Vince hit me up and was like, "Hey, would you ever think about coming back to wrestling?" Thought about it, and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I kind of had that itch. I kind of had that burn again, that feeling to be like back in the ring." So I was like, "You know what? I'll give it a shot." And I got the opportunity to come back, and it was one of the best things ever.
What was the atmosphere like in FCW during that time? I know we've heard a lot about the great, and we'll talk about some of your accomplishments there, but there were some real future stars, and yourself being one, in that locker room. What was that? What were folks as hungry and motivated as the common information has it?
You have no idea. My class was probably the hardest class to ever get on the main roster. We've had people like Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt. I mean, just every person that's been heavyweight champion, Seth Rollins, every person was in my class. The Usos. I mean, you're talking about New Day. I'm talking about me and my tag partner, which we were the FCW developmental champions, me and Xavier Woods, which is part of the New Day. Like, we had so much talent there. For you to even get someone to look at you, you had to bust your ass. I mean, we had PJ. I mean, we had so many crazy talents and so many like great athletes that it was insane. Like, my roster, when you look back at like the programs that I'm in and you see the guys that I'm with, they're all WWE heavyweight champions. It's so crazy to see everybody and how everyone's, developed. It's insane.
What would you consider your highlight of your tenure there, aside from your I was going to ask you about your run as tag champs with
probably being tag champs with Xavier, because Xavier taught me so much in the wrestling business that I have nothing but respect and love for him. And like, man, the information that he taught me and the self-pride that he taught me and how to like believe in yourself, because me and him are not the biggest guys. And Dusty would always put us against the guys that were 7 foot tall, 6'8". And Dusty's like, you guys are like pit bulls, like he just saw that fire in us and that we would not give up. And it was really good. Like, I learned so much from Xavier Woods that, like, it's insane. And, like, too, be in the ring with Heath Slater and, Joe Henning. And, like, there's so many greats that I've been in the ring with that I was so blessed to get the opportunity. I've wrestled CM Punk there. I've wrestled John Cena there. I've wrestled pretty much everybody you could ever mention there. So it's like the opportunities that I got was phenomenal.
Speaking of opportunities, you just touched on your involvement in the training process with the Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Did he impart any lessons on you that you've taken moving forward, be it promos or character development or anything like that? Or what was your level of engagement with Dusty when you were there?
My level with Dusty was high because Dusty and my dad and my uncle were best friends. So Dusty looked out for me and was always like, hey, you need to step it up on promos. You need to do this. And he wasn't scared to tell me, hey, Wes, you need to, like, step it up. You're going to get left, and that's one thing you never want to hear. So he was always there. He was always willing to listen. He was always there to, like, just guide you through what you needed to go through, as long as you listened and you took his criticism and you worked with it and made it better. That you didn't just one ear out the other.
One individual fan wants to know, Charles wants to know, was there someone in FCW that you thought would be a big star but didn't pan out per se?
There's a lot of people. I mean, me. But, that's just the way it is, like, I'm not ever look back. There's a ton of people, like, man, there were so many great wrestlers there. It was so hard for you to, like, stand out. You really had to be the best of your best, because that class that I was in was all people that knew how to work. They weren't people that didn't have a clue how to wrestle. They were all people that actually knew how to wrestle. So you were like, man, like, wow. Like, I remember when I first got there and watched some of the matches, I'm like, what is this? Like, I've never seen wrestling like this. So it was pretty crazy.
So a solid foundation. When you sustained an injury, was that and you were out of FCW? Was there a plan for you to come back, or how did that tenure terminate permanently, so to speak?
Well, the plan was the next day, me and Xavier Woods were supposed to debut on a pay-per-view and do a running. And then we were booked on Raw and SmackDown for the next month and a half. So we pretty much had a storyline going on to Raw and SmackDown. And I ended up blowing my ACL, PCL, MCL in my knee, my left knee. And it's a hard thing, like, and then right when I came back, they were like, the writers have nothing for you. There's no storylines. It's better off you go get experience somewhere else. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'll keep busting my ass. I went to Puerto Rico, wrestled in Puerto Rico for 2 years. Then from Puerto Rico, I got signed with TNA, went to TNA, did TNA for a while, did TNA for like 3 or 4 years. Then after that, went to New Japan, did England, did Europe. So, I've been wrestling all around the world and getting that experience and learning all the different styles and blending all those different styles into my style of wrestling, which I'm very blessed that I get to do and get to be able to blend my style of wrestling with all those different countries and all those different spices and, attitudes and all that different stuff.
Which we'll get into that, of course, but a fan on social media asked about your team with another second generation star, Dakota Darso. Do you have any?
Oh, shit. Damn, that was a long time ago. Wow. Yeah, Darso was a good man. He was I believe his dad was Axe
Mhm.
from Demolition,
Smash.
Smash from Demolition, which was one of my favorite tag teams in the whole entire world. I mean, when their music hit, everybody like stood up, like, "Oh my god, the Demolition is coming to get." Oh my god, it was so good. But yeah, like tagging with him was super fun. He is now a sheriff and control of all the canine um, dogs for the police enforcement in, I believe, Minnesota. So he's doing really well for himself.
So you touched on that you signed with TNA in 2012,
Hmm.
and how did you make that connection? Did they reach out to you? And do you have any memories about your debut? I know I was a big fan of TNA at that time, and remember your debut with Kurt Angle in that vignette. How did that whole thing come about?
Well, it kind of came about that they had a storyline coming up and they needed some extra guys, and they were thinking about ways to make this storyline mean stuff by having feuds with other wrestlers. And they were like, well, Bruce threw out my name, and a couple of people like Bischoff and a couple of Dixie were like, oh, yeah, we would really like to have Wes here. So they realized that back in my amateur wrestling days, I used to go to all Kurt Angle's camps, and Kurt would come to my school and do an amateur wrestling camp. So I've known Kurt. I have pictures of me and Kurt since we were little kids. And of course, Hogan was there, and I've known Hogan my whole life. My dad gave Hogan his first pair of wrestling boots, his first $100 bill. So there was a lot to do with a lot of interaction that I could do with other Impact wrestlers because of my background and my heritage and the people that I've known throughout the years. So they were like, "Oh, Wes will do pretty good." And then they came up with this crazy storyline of me going against Kurt and all that stuff, which ended up being a steel cage match in Texas on pay-per-view on Lockdown, me versus Kurt Angle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you, when you were involved in the gut check angle, that's something that a lot of folks debate to this day, and you defeated Garrett Bischoff, who you team with, of course, thereafter. What was your thoughts of that whole gut check phenomenon? Good thing or bad thing?
Good thing I was so scared. They didn't really tell me if I was going to win or not. I'm going to be dead honest with you. They didn't tell anybody. It was actually a real work. Like it was like they were like no one knew if you were going. Like they didn't tell me if I was going to win. Like, and I'm looking at Bruce like, hey, like what's going on? He's like, you gotta go out there and prove it. And I'm like, all right, like, but like then again, I was in my hometown. It was kind of like, well, I'm in Orlando. Like, of course, everyone's gonna scream and like, so I kind of already had that like, just give me the mic, you know, and like I got this, you know, like. But it turned out really good, and it was a great experience. And you know, I have to thank everybody from TNA at the time that helped me out, and I truly was blessed to be there. Like when I was there, it was probably some of the best wrestling I've ever seen because we had Samoa Joe, Austin Aries, I mean, AJ Styles. I mean, there's so many. Kenny King. I mean, there's just so many people. Abyss. I mean, Sting. I mean, oh my God, the talent there was insane. The people that were in the locker room, everybody was great wrestlers, and that's what TNA and Impact Wrestling back in the day was known for. Was we actually had a really good program. We really had great wrestling. Like if you wanted to watch some good stuff happen, turn into Impact, and you would see some great matches.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Actually,
Oh, what's going on here? We having a party without the Mag? Are we having a party without the Magnum? Look who we got here. We got Wes Brisco and Booker Man. How's it going, Booker Man? Yeah, nice to finally see you. How about you, Wes?
How did you get on this, bro?
Let's listen to the Magnum. How about this? Wes Brisco. We were in your hometown, and you didn't have the guts. You hold the tights. We call you Captain Hook. You're Captain Hook from now on. All right, we're going to give you a new gimmick name, Captain Hook, because you pulled the tights. That's the only reason you beat the Magnum. And guess what? I would never stoop to such a level as to cheat to get a victory. I am not that kind of man. No. But you, Wes, no. Yeah, that's just normal for you. No, we're gonna suck up the Booker man. Is that what we're gonna do? Now I know the Brisco family. They know how to play backstage politics. Hey, legendary in the backstage, WWE, WWF, NWA. I respect the Brisco name, but you are the heir to that name, Wes. I respect you, but the hatred after that show in Florida where you pulled the tights and you cheated. This has become personal. Understand, this has become personal. May 6th, Earl Armstrong Arena, Ottawa, Ontario. I am going to get you, Wes. I said before I feared what I was going to do to you. It is even stronger than that now. I know you, Booker man, you're holding the pencil. You think it's going to go a certain way, but no, it is not. I hold the cards in this situation, not you, Booker man, and not you, Wes. Now I know what's going to happen. You're gonna take me off this. You're gonna bury me behind my back, because that's the type of people you two are. I know you. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. What do you got? Let's hear it.
Well, it's just ironic that we were talking about you before you jumped on here without authorization, and and the word respect came up, or lack thereof, and the difference between an individual like Mr. Brisco and yourself. Respect.
Respect. It's about time that Wes Brisco respects the Magnum. Okay? You respect me. Okay? Booker man, respect me as well. Okay? Understand, I am going to beat you with an inch of your life for what you did to me in your hometown, because you didn't have the gumption to beat me like a man. I would never stoop to such a level to pull the tights. That is not something I would do. I am going to beat you in the middle of the ring while you're looking up the lights. A 1, 2, 3. No strings attached. No pulling the tights, Captain Hook. You understand me? And guess what? With that being said, the party's over because the star's leaving. Have a good one.
He sure did have a lot of strings around his neck.
Do you want to dignify that with a response, or let your talking May the 6th in the ring do the job?
Well, respect is always given, but it's something that you have to earn. Respect is not something that is just given out. Respect is something that you have to earn, especially earn from a guy like me.
Well, I'd like to apologize for that that interruption. I know that at the end of all the talking, he has to face you in the ring on May the 6th, and it's probably going to be a situation that he never forgets.
I'm definitely going to make it sure that it's going to be one hell of a match. So everyone better get ready, better buy those tickets, sign up, check it out, because I'm not coming to play around. Wes Brisco's coming back for only one thing. You know what that is. That GNWA Heavyweight Championship. Wes Brisco is not here to play games. He's not here to talk. He's here to prove himself and make sure that he kicks some ass in Canada, because Canada is my second home.
And despite what Mr. Magnum may believe, you're not a stepping stone for anybody.
No, I've never been a stepping stone. I'm one of those people that you try to step on me, see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, moving away from him for a second, and again, I apologize. This has never happened in the history of my podcast before, but I want to focus on what I believe to be the greatest faction of the 2000s in recent memory. If you look at the quality of storyline, storytelling, and the athletes involved, and that's the Aces and Eights, in which you were selected to be a very key member of that organization. Can you discuss how you were selected and the way that the faction came together? Because as a strictly a fan viewing the product, I was impressed with it. There was obviously a lot of thought put behind this angle.
Yes, this was Eric Bischoff's baby. It was one of his storylines that he came up with, and because at the time Sons of Anarchy was really, really hot, and he was like, man, there really hasn't been like a biker club in the wrestling business, like there's been like kind of, but not really like the Aces and Eights. So when we were given, we were all handpicked, and when they picked me, they knew I had long hair, I have tons of tattoos, so like they were like, oh, he fits the biker persona. So we went with that, and then we kept hiring other guys that looked like bikers, and every person that we hired were badasses. I mean, we got Knox, Luke Gallows. I mean, some of the guys that we had were total studs. And it was his baby, and he really wanted to focus on the club aspect and really show that like we were a family. We had our own locker room. We were separated from everyone else. We were always tucked away in our own area. We always did our own. Back in the day, we used to be able to walk to the crowd. So we always walked to the crowd, never went through Gorilla, never ever like had to deal with Gorilla, which was cool because it's pretty stressful when you're sitting in Gorilla and you see all the people like on their headsets yelling and stuff, and everyone's trying to go over their match. At least there, you're like, well, hopefully I know it, because if I don't, I don't. You know what? Whatever. But, it was pretty crazy because, you would have to go set up and security come get you 30 minutes, 40 minutes before your match. So you don't really have much time to go over anything with your opponents or anything like that. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm just, going for it. And that was some of the craziest things, is walking through the crowd. Like, that was so much fun, and there were so many fights and so much wickedness that happened walking through that crowd that people don't even have a clue of.
Were you involved in any of them? I saw some edited footage a couple of times where the fans really, and I mean, that's a testament to how great the angle was and the performance of the people. That heat, and I'll get to Bully Ray later, but that heat was palpable. You guys were hated.
I mean, it was the first time I remember in Chicago when Bully finally turned, and we're standing in the ring in Chicago, and there's so much trash getting thrown into the ring. I'm like, whoa, like, I haven't seen that in a long, like, literally, you guys can Google it. Like, Google Bully Ray turning on Hogan, and you will see all the trash getting thrown into the ring, and, like, people, like, and they cut it out halfway through. I mean, by the time we got out there, the whole ring was covered. The security is like, hey, you guys can't walk back through the crowd. And we're like, why? They're like, they're way too pissed. And we're like, of course, Bully and everyone's like, no, we're going through the crowd. The security's like, no. Like, we've been told that you guys have to go through the back. Like, go through the Gorilla. And we're like, we never go through Gorilla. They're like, today's a different day. You got to go through Gorilla. So that day we went through Gorilla because the crowd was just so like, and it was crazy because we were the number one selling merch too. So like, it was like split half and half. Like, half the crowd loved us and half the crowd hated us. Towards the end, everyone loves us. Like, it was pretty insane. And sir, today, whenever I'm at signings and stuff like that, people always come up to me and they're like, Aces and Eights were my favorite faction. You're like, you guys were so awesome. You had cool storylines. You guys were different. And that was the whole thing, is we want to be different. We wanted to like separate ourselves from every other faction that came in throughout wrestling. We wanted to be something different. We wanted to be just something that people will always talk about. And that's something that people always will talk about, is the Aces and Eights.
Yeah, and that's one of the head scratching things that I don't really get about the internet. Some of the folks on the internet, the pundits that talk about, Aces and Eights being, not the best, blah blah blah, forgettable. Yet there's this huge fan base still to this day that really appreciate the work, and here we are talking about it still 10 years 9 years later. So I think that's a testament to just how well done the whole I mean it made Impact Television at that time, in my view, must see TV for sure.
Oh, I mean, some of the packages and promos that we would do were phenomenal. We're like, I mean, there's one time that we hired strippers and I mean, we were fully like, everything was legit. Like, those were real beer, real Jack. They were drinking backstage. Like, it got to a point where they stopped bringing us cold beers because we kept messing up the promos to get more cold beers, and like they kept bringing us warm beers. Then they started bringing us warm beers, and we're like, ugh. And of course, a couple other guys would drink it, but I'm like, oh, I can't drink a warm beer. Like, that's just disgusting. But some of the other guys didn't have a problem with it. They're like, oh, you're not gonna stop me, and just like chug it. I'm like, nah, that's where I draw the line.
No shit. What do you consider to be your? And I just wanted to mention that you and Garrett Bischoff defeated James Storm and Gunner for the tag straps, but never actually got the belts.
We were supposed to get the belts.
Yeah. What happened there? Would you consider that to be one of the highlights of your involvement in that angle, or was it your work with Kurt, or
my work with Kurt? Oh. My work with Kurt and my work with Sting. I remember one time we were in a match and Sting was like, tag Wes in. And he was like, they tagged me in. They're like, thank God. Sting is like, thank God. He's like, all right, let's go. And I'm like working Sting. And it was like one of the best. And then, of course, working Samoa Joe. I mean, there's so much good talent there that was so hard to be like, what was my greatest point? Because to be honest with you, every day I showed up to work was freaking awesome. Like, every day I show up to work, it's like, oh, I get to wrestle him. I get to wrestle RVD. I get to wrestle, like, it's just all people that I look up to, all people that are cool, and they're all people that want to have great matches. So it's like showing up to work was pretty damn easy, and being like very, very happy and very blessed to be in the ring with Chavo Guerrero. I mean, I had matches with Chavo. Like, come on now, like, getting to wrestle Chavo, like. I have a pair of Eddie's boots that Hector Guerrero gave me. So it's like their family and my family have been connected for a very long time. So the Guerreros and my family are like very, very close. So being able to get in the ring with a Guerrero meant the world to me. I mean, come on now. Like, being able to step in the ring with a Guerrero, I mean, it was just awesome. It was a great time and a great experience, and being with all those superstars and learning from them and just being in the ring with them was a great, great experience.
And the man who was the precipice or the center of the angle was Bully Ray, and that tremendous work that he did. What were your thoughts in terms of him as the leader, and the way that his promos, which, dating back to his work in ECW, you think of that Heat Wave 98 promo that almost started a riot, and that special skill that he had for generating heat. What were your thoughts of him as the leader and the storyline driver of the faction?
Well, I mean, he wasn't necessarily supposed to be the leader. I think he kind of got his way into that, but he was a great person to have back us, and a great person to, be the president. And he could cut a promo better than anybody and get heat. Like, I'm talking about Chicago, when he turned on Hogan, it was insane. It was crazy. So, it really helped us become that really bad heel, which was the storyline I was going to continue. Was he was going to take the heel faction, and I was going to be the captain of the baby faces. And I was going to lead a baby face faction to go against them. And, that was the plan, and that was supposed to be written out. But change of guard, change of higher-ups, change of writers and everything like that, they wanted to scratch everything that was before that and cut it all out and start from new. So they basically told everyone, hey, all your characters, everybody, it's all stopping. You're gonna be brand new from there. So it's like something that you worked so hard and you created something so good and so special, and that when they took it away, it was really hard for all of us. We were like, all right, like that ain't cool. Like, like we worked so hard to build a storyline, and like everyone, like the fans were invested. They liked it. They loved it. It wasn't anything that we were forcing. It was just, it took off. And, for someone to tell you, hey, like all that's done with, it was like, oh, all right, where are we going from here?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because the way that it seemed to me that the storyline, the angle, whatever, wound down rather strangely and nonsensically before its time. There seemed to be more gas in the. I don't know if you were on this house show, but Poughkeepsie, New York, of all places, I was at a house show in 2014 where the Aces and Eights were there, and for Poughkeepsie there were about 1,000 people there on the strength of seeing the stars of TNA at that time and the Aces and Eights. Just aside from a change in higher ups, was there any attempt to talk some sense into the creative folks?
They weren't hearing it. It didn't even matter what you said. It was done with.
Strange.
That's why it ended. That's why everyone's like, it kind of ended kind of like, everyone's like, what the hell happened? And I'm like, well, they wanted to get it done as fast as possible.
Yeah, that was apparent even to the fans, for sure.
Yeah, and then everyone was gone after that. So it's like, it is what it is.
So you left TNA in 2014 and get to some of your experiences in Japan, but I understand you made a couple of appearances in the last few years with Impact, sort of reinvigorating the Aces and Eights deal. How did that, and Garrett was involved too, how did that come to fruition?
And D'Lo Brown, don't forget that.
Sorry, of course.
I just got a phone call saying, hey, we're doing the, I think it was a 20-year anniversary, I believe, right? Was it 20 years or was it more than
that? About 2012, so it couldn't have been that, maybe 10-ish.
I think it was their 20-year anniversary.
For Impact as a company.
Yeah, yes. as a company, because it kept bringing in a bunch of former Impact champions and people like that. It was great to be back. I see Nick is back. They have a great program. I mean, pretty much every wrestling program right now that's on TV is good to watch. So Impact, the product that I just wrestled Rich Swann from Impact Wrestling. We had a hell of a match. Every person at Impact Wrestling has tons of talent. Like Heath Slater. I mean, I could go on and on about, they're finally building back their roster back how they used to be, stacked full of, really good athletes. I mean, they got Simi Callahan. They got this just Moose. I mean, so many great talents there that, I'm blessed to be able to come back and, step out that ring, and all the fans remembered me. Everybody remembered backstage. So it was really cool. And they have a really good staff. They have a really good group of people that are trying to make it back how Impact Wrestling used to be.
So after you left, you went to Japan and you challenged for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship along with the tag titles. What was that experience like with that style coming from Impact? I
mean, I fit right in with that style of wrestling because my amateur wrestling, my boxing, my kickboxing, I like, that's not a problem for me to go strong style. Is like, that's even easier. It's hard for me to go light, but I loved it. I love Japan. I love the experience. I did 5 tours there, so I was pretty blessed to spend some time there and really got a lot of experience. And it was so much fun being in Japan and New Japan and just being able to be with all the great wrestlers. And like, it was pretty crazy. It was fun.
And the fans that know you from GNW know that you've made a number of shots with the company in the past, and you've had some really classic matches, including the tangle that you had with Black Dynamite Jeremy Prophet, who will be defending his Canadian Championship on May the 6th at the Earl Armstrong Arena. What would you consider your most gratifying match or involvement with Great North Wrestling to date? And why is it, do you think, that the fans are so excited to have Wes Brisco back in GNW?
It's probably when I won the GNW Heavyweight Championship. I was the first American to ever win it. And for me, that brought tears in my eyes. It's something that I've always respected you guys in Canada. You guys always had some of the best wrestlers in the whole entire world. And I've always respected your style of wrestling in Canada. I've always looked up to the way you guys wrestle in Canada. And it was something that when I won that title and Hannibal told me that I was the first American to ever win that title, it was something that just was a shock, because that's something that's like, it means a lot to me, guys. Like, every time I step in that ring, it means a lot. And especially when I hear that crowd cheer for me, and I'm not from Canada, I'm from the US, and to hear them get behind me and root me on and want to be fully behind me meant the world to me. I mean, I consider Canada my second home now because of you guys. You guys are awesome. And man, G&W just really opened up my eyes. I've always been to Canada. I've always had a lot of experiences here through my pro wakeboarding and then of course with pro wrestling. So it's just, man, I just love the culture. I love you guys as a people, and it's just awesome. I mean, I just respect everything from Canada. It's a beautiful country, and you guys are all awesome, and it's just fun, man. You guys are really good people.
And have a lot of respect for your family and your legacy, and what old school. I think that's one of the highlights of the GNW fans is the fact that they really respect wrestling and old school wrestling and what that means, as opposed to trends come and go, but good quality wrestling is very much appreciated here. Going back to the Hart family and that legacy. So a lot of respect for your style. My associate Jake Walker has a question about, did you have any interactions with Paul Heyman?
Yeah, a bunch. I mean, he was a mentor of mine, and he was also one of those guys that was like, when you get to the main roster, I'll have your back. I'll do whatever it takes, So I was looking forward to being able to work with him and being able to pick his brain a lot more. I got to talk to him, but not as much as I would like to.
And Charles wants to know, and I guess he's talking about the Aces and Eights faction, did any of you own or ride a motorcycle?
Pretty much all of us. Yeah, that's another reason why we got along and we just fit in, because we already knew how to ride motorcycles. We were already I already had friends in clubs before that I actually had to call and ask for permission, be like, hey man, you guys are cool with me doing this Aces and Eights stuff? Because I don't want to get beat up. Legit. I got some friends that are some legit clubs, I wanted to make sure that, I'm rocking that bottom rocker that says no man's, and that's kind of a no-no, So, it was crazy, but yeah, all of us rode motorcycles. We all had motorcycles. We were all already in other clubs or talking to other clubs, and a lot of us were already in the kind of the biker world.
And that extended to Aces and Eights Quebec, which are still active today, I understand.
Yep, Aces and Eights Quebec, and then we got some other chapters in some other different places.
Well, we'll have to see who shows up on May the 6th. So,
as long as it's not the guy that was on Botchamania that missed the table and jumped on the floor, then jumped onto the guy. Oh my god! He kicked him out of the club a long time ago, but
Yeah, we'll have to avoid those sort of happenings for sure, for everyone's safety. Now, in recent years, you're active in Florida on the
Mhm.
scene, and you're a podcaster yourself. Can you fill the fans in on all the more recent happenings with Wes Brisco?
Yeah, I do some tours in South Africa. I'm also the ALW heavyweight Florida champion right now. I do my own podcast, Brisco and Big A Show, my own Instagram, Wes Brisco 19. I have a couple of cooking shows out on YouTube. I pretty much do a lot of different things. So look at my YouTube page, my YouTube channel. I do a lot of like catch and cook stuff where I go out fishing and catch my or spear fishing and catch my own fish and show you guys how to clean it, how to cook it, how to properly prepare the food that you catch. Um, so I have a lot of different things out there. So you can catch me on Wes Brisco 19 on Instagram or follow me on YouTube, The Ventures of Wes Brisco. I have a bunch of different things out there. You just gotta follow along.
You're a Renaissance man, as they say. A fan, Justin, wants to know, who do you think will finally be able to defeat Roman Reigns? This individual thinks it will be Cody Rhodes. That's an interesting debate since WrestleMania. Do you think they messed up not pulling the trigger on that? And do you think Cody maybe Lex Luger, so to speak?
No, because Cody can work. Um, no, they're just waiting for the right time. I think everyone was expecting Cody to win, so WWE kind of wants to take it from you. They don't want to give you what you want. They want you to like be invested. So I think that's going to help the storyline really like get a little bit hotter, a little bit more intense, because they're both second generation wrestlers, It's going to be very, very intense to see these next rounds of Raw and SmackDown, see what type of promos, how they're building up to SummerSlam, because it's going to be SummerSlam where that title is going to change. So
Yeah.
We got to really pay attention on the promos, what's going on, and really listen to the product and check out the product, because it's the only way you're going to be able to really gasp of who's going to win that title. And I don't really know right now what they're going to do. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully Cody gets it. I'm rooting for him. He's a friend of mine. His dad was one of my coaches, one of my absolute heroes, one of my mentors, one of my absolute favorite people to be around. So, of course, I also room for Roman because we were classmates. We were in WWE together, FCW together. Like we have, we share the locker room a lot of times with each other, and we're really good friends. So, it's a hard one to pick from. I just want the best storyline and the best what sells the most tickets. I want it to work because those guys can really, I feel like, could sell out a whole arena just them. If they really focus on their promos, and WWE allows them to get the time to focus on the promos, and allow them to like really just don't even do matches, just do promos, just bam, 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 build it up so much where people want to see you guys touch again, want to see you guys lay hands. There's a bunch of different things they can do with it, story wise and by the creative to tell that story of like, man, what's going to happen when Cody finally gets a hand of Roman, people are dying for that storyline. People are dying for that. It's just like watching a good movie. The good guys never win right away. It takes some time, and that's what builds a great story. And that's what I fell in love with wrestling. I don't know if that's how you fell in love with wrestling, but it's the storylines. It's the David and Goliath story, like those are the things that really make you want to watch. I'm looking forward to the storyline.
And he'll just be stronger if he goes over Lesnar too. So that's, I think you hit the nail on the head. The fans were really expecting this to happen, and this just adds.
They were calling it already before the match even happened. And a lot of times when they do that, I've seen Vince will change it right away because he knows that if he doesn't give him the title and people are invested in him, they're going to pay more money if he won the title, they might not watch again. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, he got it, cool. You know, but now they're like, oh, what's going to happen next? So now he's got a lot more people interested and want to watch and want to be invested in that storyline because he didn't get that big payoff. The picture of him sitting in the ring with his head down, wow, that was moving. That gave me chills. Like, oh, I've been in that scenario. I've been in that spot where all you want to do is win, and for your family, for you, for everything, and it doesn't happen. You know, that's pretty heavy. And he handled it like a true champion, which he will be, but he just got to earn it.
Yeah, I believe so too. So, Wes, I want to thank you for the hour that you've spent with us. Our time is done. We're really looking for. I know one of the matches that I'm most looking forward to is yourself against Magnum, and just wonder. There you go. Just that's
that alligator. Got that Florida alligator. You know, I had to go out there and hunt that thing myself and pull him up, but that's how we do it down here in Florida.
Are you going to be bringing that with you or no?
Yes, I am.
Good man. What I know we had a very rude hijack, and some of the comments that Magnum's made along the way, I think are, maybe it's his age, maybe it's I hate to categorize a generation.
Well, Magnum is in that, like you said, that generation that is all into social media, is all into not putting in the work, as in more, and I'm just going to brag about it and say all these nasty things. But when it comes down to it, he still has to step in the ring with Wes Brisco. He has to walk through those ropes and face me. Yes, he has faced me once before in Florida, but he wasn't this disrespectful. He hasn't been doing the antics that he has been doing with you guys. And I don't put up with that bullcrap, especially in Canada. No, that shit ain't going to fly. Excuse my language.
Well, maybe that's a sign of he knows what he's in for, so he's trying to get the. I kind of laugh at this too, psychological gamesmanship by pulling these stunts and making these comments.
Well,
maybe he knows.
With Magnum is that he has the talent, he has the charisma, he has everything to be champion. But does he have the respect? Does he earn it? Is he going to use his 7-foot giant to help back him? Those are the things that when I come to the ring, Wes Brisco comes by himself. We're not an aces and ace no more. But I can call a number and have some crew there if I need to. Bet that.
Well, Wes, again, I want to thank you very much. We're definitely really pumped about this entire event. The fan feedback has been incredible. People are really, really anticipating the return of Great North Wrestling. Would encourage everyone listening, get your tickets now. Ticketweb.ca. Get them now. They are available at the door, but you're going to want them in advance. You don't want to miss this. This is going to be the wrestling event of the year so far in our region, and there's more to come this summer for Great North Wrestling, of which I'm proud to say that Mr. Brisco will most definitely be a part of it. Wes, any parting words for the fans, sir?
Nothing. That I love you guys. I'm looking forward to be back in Canada at Magnum. Wes Brisco ain't no stepping stone, son. Wait till you step in the ring with Wes Brisco. Yeah, you stepped in the ring with me once before, but it ain't nothing like stepping in the ring when I'm in Canada in front of all my friends, my family. I'm going to represent the best that I can.
That's it, fans, for another edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will all see you on Saturday. Jack Kilby here, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling. No Gimmicks Entertainment is pleased to present Great North Wrestling's huge 15th anniversary show on Saturday, May the 6th at the Earl Armstrong Arena in Ottawa, Ontario. Bell time 7 p.m. This stacked card will feature former TNA Impact World Heavyweight Champion Cowboy James Storm, WCW legend The Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, managing the diabolical Blood Hunter, second generation former TNA star Aces and Eights Wes Brisco, Canadian champion Black Dynamite Jeremy Prophet, and former GNW Women's Champion Jessica Black, the Conspiracy Horsemen of Ayatollah Bin Hameen and Greek god Papadon from Vince Russo's brand, Ottawa wrestling legend Bruiser, with much more to be announced. Fans, there will be a meet and greet before the event and at intermission. Tickets now on sale, available at ticketweb.ca and at the door. Don't you dare miss it.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.